Have you ever wondered what it was like to wake up not to the sound of an alarm clock, but to the howl of a direwolf? How did early humans actually survive in a savage world full of beasts and ice? Today, we'll delve deep into the Stone Age to experience a day in the shoes of our ancestors. We'll explore the ancient daily lives of Neanderthals and see how modern archaeology reveals their most intimate secrets. You'll discover how prehistoric survival shaped our own human evolution and unravel some historical mysteries that still intrigue scientists today. If you're fascinated by our past, enjoy this video and subscribe so you don't miss any time travel adventures. To truly understand what a day in the life of our ancestors was like, we first need to adjust our internal clock. And I'm not talking about going back a few decades or centuries. Our journey is much, much longer. Let's delve into what we call prehistory. Think of human history as a vast book. Prehistory would be all the volumes that came before the first word was written. It's such a vast period that our recorded history, with its empires, kings, and revolutions, is nothing more than a footnote in the final chapter. We're talking about over 99% of the entire human journey on Earth. Within this immensity, our focus is the Stone Age, more specifically, a period known as the Paleolithic. Now imagine the scenario. About 150,000 years ago, Earth was an untamed planet, shaped by cycles of ice and thaw. This was the world of the so-called megafauna. Woolly mammoths, with their imposing curved tusks, roamed the steppes. Woolly rhinos grazed the cold plains. Cave lions, larger and more ferocious than today's African lions, were at the top of the food chain. Prehistoric survival was not a metaphor. It was a daily battle against an environment that was both the source of everything and a constant threat. And who were the protagonists of this saga? For a long time, popular culture painted a caricatured portrait of primitive humans, brutish, hunched, almost ape-like beings, dragging their women by the hair. Modern archaeology and science have completely demolished this image. The masters of the world we'll visit today were the Neanderthals, Homo neanderthalensis. They weren't a lesser version of us. They were a parallel human lineage that evolved in Eurasia and dominated that continent for hundreds of thousands of years. Physically, they were incredibly robust, shorter than us on average, but with a wider ribcage, denser bones, and powerful musculature. They were the perfect adaptation to a cold climate and a physically demanding life. And their brains. They were, on average, slightly larger than ours. Brain size isn't the only measure of intelligence, of course, but it undermines the idea that they were stupid. They were, in fact, masters of the technology of their time. Their tools, from the so-called Mousterian culture, were sophisticated. They didn't simply pick up two stones and strike them together randomly. They used a complex technique called Levallois, which involved preparing a block of stone, the core, with dozens of precise blows to ultimately detach a perfect flake, already in the desired shape to be a knife, a scraper, or the tip of a spear. This requires planning, spatial acuity, and the transmission of knowledge from generation to generation. But their humanity went far beyond tools. Archaeological sites reveal a poignant glimpse into their social life. In Iraq, in the Shanidar cave, the skeleton of an older Neanderthal was found, who had suffered multiple serious injuries in life. He was partially blind in one eye, had a withered arm, and likely walked with a limp. In a world where physical prowess was everything, he would not have survived for years without the constant care of his group. This is not the behavior of brutes. It is compassion. It is the seed of our own humanity. They also had an aesthetic sense. There is evidence of the use of ochre pigment, likely for body painting. At a site in Croatia, eagle talons were found with markings suggesting they were worn as ornaments, such as a necklace or pendant. This is symbolic thinking. It's the ability to attribute meaning to something beyond its practical function. What about communication? Did they speak? Well, the discovery of a Neanderthal hyoid bone, virtually identical to ours and crucial for speech, suggests they had the necessary vocal apparatus. Geneticists have also discovered that they possessed the FOXP2 gene, linked to language in a variant similar to ours. We can't know what their language was like, but it's almost certain they communicated in a much more complex way than simple grunts. And here we come to the most fascinating point that connects their history to ours. For a long time we thought of them as a dead end of human evolution. a branch that simply disappeared. But the genetic revolution of the last decade has changed everything. By analyzing DNA from Neanderthal fossils and comparing it with our own, scientists discovered something astonishing. They not only coexisted with our direct ancestors, Homo sapiens, but also interbred with them. If your ancestry isn't purely African, you carry between 1% and 3% Neanderthal DNA in your genome right now. Traces of your immune system, the texture of your hair, your ability to adapt to certain altitudes, all of this could be a direct genetic inheritance from these Stone Age masters. They haven't completely disappeared. In some ways, a small portion of them survives in billions of us. So, as we prepare to follow in the footsteps of one of these hunters as they go about their daily lives, remember, we are not observing an alien or an exotic animal. We are looking at a relative, an intelligent, resilient, and complex people whose legacy is intertwined with our own in ways that science is only now beginning to unravel. It is in this rich and dangerous world that our story begins. The sun hasn't risen yet, but the day has already begun. Inside the rock shelter, the air is thick, a mixture of smoke, damp earth, and the musky odor of the animal skins used as blankets. The only sound, besides the wind whistling outside, is the steady crackling of the fire and the rhythmic breathing of a dozen sleeping bodies. This is the essence of ancient daily life, a small nucleus of warmth and humanity surrounded by an immense wilderness. The first to move is not the strongest hunter, but an older woman, the keeper of the flame. With slow, practiced gestures, she feeds the fire with dry, preciously stored twigs. Losing the fire during the night would be a disaster, an open invitation to predators and the deadly cold. For Neanderthals, fire was not just a tool. It was the beating heart of the community, the center around which life revolved. Slowly, the clan awakens. There are no hurried words, just a subtle communication of looks and gestures. A child nestles closer to its mother. A young hunter picks up his spear, feeling the familiar weight of wood and sharp stone tip. The first task of the day is to assess the world, watch the sky, sense the direction of the wind, look for fresh animal tracks near the shelter. Every detail is vital information, a piece in the puzzle of prehistoric survival. Today, the hunt will be dangerous. The target is the steppe bison, a mountain of muscle and fury that can sustain the group for weeks. The decision is made in silence. A group of 4 hunters, the most experienced and strongest, prepares to set out. They eat a piece of dried meat from the previous hunt, concentrating their energy for the long journey. Their spears are no simple weapons. They are the result of a lifetime of learning, perfectly balanced with flint tips that can penetrate the animal's thick hide. As they drift away, disappearing like ghosts into the morning mist, life in the camp reconfigures itself. It's a mistake to think that those who remain are merely waiting. Ancient daily life is a web of interdependent tasks. The women, accompanied by their older children, set off in another direction. They are the living encyclopedias of their surroundings. Their trained eyes see not just a forest, but a larder. They identify nutritious roots, seasonal fruits, mushrooms, and medicinal plants. This botanical knowledge, passed down from mother to daughter for countless generations, is as crucial as the hunter's spear. Back at the shelter, an elder who no longer has the strength to hunt sits patiently, chipping a new tool from a stone. He's not just making an object, he's teaching a boy who watches him with rapt attention. Each strike of the hammer is a lesson in angles, strength, and patience. This is how culture survives, in silent practice, imitation, and repetition. Hours pass. The tension of waiting is palpable, but controlled by the routine of the work. An animal skin is stretched and scraped, preparing to become clothing or a blanket. The fire is maintained. Surveillance is constant. In the distance, a sound, a combined call that announces success. The joy that runs through the camp is deep and visceral. The hunters return, exhausted but victorious, dragging the heavy carcass. The collective work now intensifies. The meat is divided according to complex social rules, the hide is carefully removed, and the bones are broken to extract the precious marrow, rich in fat. Nothing is wasted. At night, around the great bonfire, the community gathers. The meat roasts, its scent filling the air and driving away the shadows. It is in this moment of safety and satiety that the great historical mysteries come to life. One of the hunters, with gestures and sounds, recounts the hunt, not to boast but to teach, to share the strategy, to engrave the group's memory. And on the cave walls, the dancing light of the fire reveals other, older memories. The cave paintings, negative outlines of bison, horses, and hands. Why did they do this? Was it a magical ritual to ensure hunting success, a record of a shaman's visions, or simply the oldest and purest expression of the human impulse to say, "I was here. I saw this. My life matters"? To look at these images is to peer directly into the symbolic and spiritual minds of early humans. It's proof that they cared not only about the survival of the body, but also about nourishing the soul. And as the night progresses, another mystery, deeper and darker, hangs in the air. Their world, which seems so eternal and unchanging, is about to change forever. Elsewhere, a new, slimmer, and perhaps more numerous type of human, Homo sapiens, is expanding. Perhaps they've already encountered them, strange groups with different tools and incomprehensible speech, seen from afar. Are they friends or foes? Competitors for the same scarce resources? This is the greatest of all historical mysteries. What really happened to the Neanderthals? Was it a slow extinction caused by competition for food and territory? Were they absorbed, genetically diluted by the larger population of newcomers? Or were there direct conflicts? Sitting around their campfire, they could not have known that they were one of the last generations. They could not have known that their lineage, which dominated Europe for a time that makes all of our recorded history seem like the blink of an eye, was coming to an end. The day ends as it began, with the fire crackling. But the tranquility of the night carries the weight of an unknown future and a past that, to this day, we struggle to fully understand. Their life was a masterpiece of adaptation, but it faced a challenge for which, perhaps, there was no answer. It may seem like an unbridgeable gulf of time between the flickering fire in that Stone Age shelter and the screen you're staring at right now. 150,000 years of history, technology, and civilization separate us. But the truth, revealed by science, is that the walls of that cave aren't just stone, they're mirrors, and the reflection they show us is, in surprising and profound ways, our own. Ancient daily life isn't a closed chapter. It's the foundation upon which our modern reality was built. Let's start with what defines us as a species: our minds. The most powerful tool those hunters possessed wasn't the stone spear, but the brain capable of creating one. Prehistoric survival was a relentless 24-hour mental exercise. It required the ability to memorize vast territories, predict the behavior of prey and predators, innovate under pressure, and, above all, solve complex problems as a team. Have you ever stopped to think about where our restlessness, this need to understand, to disassemble and to build, comes from? The same neural wiring that allowed a Neanderthal to analyze a block of flint, visualize the tool hidden within, and execute the precise movements to free it, is the direct ancestor of the cognition that today allows an engineer to design a skyscraper, a doctor to diagnose a rare disease, or a programmer to write complex code. Technology has changed, but the fundamental process of observation, planning, and execution is a direct echo of those minds forged in ice. Human evolution hasn't discarded this operating system. It simply updated it with new applications. And what about our society? Perhaps the most important legacy of those early humans is the very idea that we care for one another. In a world governed by the law of the fittest, archaeology shows us skeletons of individuals who lived for years with severe disabilities. This is revolutionary information. It means that, at some point, the group decided that a person's worth lay not only in their ability to hunt or gather. An elder's knowledge, the stories they told, their simple presence, all of this had a value that transcended physical usefulness. This decision to care for the vulnerable is the cornerstone of empathy and altruism. It is the seed from which everything we consider noble in our civilization has sprouted. Hospitals, schools, justice systems, and even the simple act of helping a stranger. Our complex social web, with its networks of support and cooperation, is a mega-scale version of the social pact that was forged day after day around those campfires. They taught us that the strength of a group lies not in the individual power of its members, but in the strength of the bonds that unite them. And what about our relationship with technology? The smartphone you might have in your pocket and the Mousterian spearhead seem like objects from different universes, but they are on the same continuum, that of the human capacity to extend the limits of the body through the creativity of the mind. That stone tip allowed a human arm to become stronger and more lethal. Your cell phone allows your voice and thoughts to reach the other side of the planet instantly. Both are solutions to a problem, manifestations of our eternal discontent with the limitations imposed by nature. The relentless search for a better tool, for a more efficient solution, is the same. The scale has changed, the complexity has exploded, but the drive is a direct legacy of prehistoric survival. Finally, the most intimate, undeniable, and scientific connection is written into our own genetic code. As we've seen, if you have ancestry outside of Africa, a portion of your DNA is a living archive of the Neanderthal world, and this is no trivial curiosity. These genes had and still have functions. Many of them are linked to our immune system. Consider this. Neanderthals lived in Eurasia for hundreds of thousands of years, adapting to local viruses and bacteria. When our Homo sapiens ancestors arrived, interbreeding with Neanderthals acted as an evolutionary shortcut, giving us an immediate immunological advantage against the pathogens of that new environment. Your ability to fight off certain infections today may be, in part, a gift from a Neanderthal ancestor 50,000 years ago. Therefore, when we look back at ancient daily life, we are not just observing a distant people. We are observing ourselves. The resilience to face a failed hunting day, the creativity to transform a stone into a tool, the compassion to feed a wounded companion, and the curiosity to paint the image of an animal on a cave wall. All of this survives within us. The historical mysteries of prehistory are not about them. They are about the first and most important pages of our own biography. And so, our virtual campfire dies down, and our day-long journey through the Stone Age comes to an end. We've walked through the cold forests alongside the hunters, felt the warmth of the fire that was the heart of the community, and gazed in awe at the marks they left on the cave walls. Today, we don't just learn about prehistoric survival. We get a glimpse of it. We see that the ancient daily life of Neanderthals and other early humans was much more than a brutal struggle for existence. It was a complex web of cooperation, innovation, art, and, undoubtedly, love and loss. They weren't a primitive blueprint of us. They were a different and complete version of humanity, masters of a world we can barely imagine today. Archaeology provides us with the fragments, the pieces of this monumental puzzle, and each fossil, each stone tool, each trace of ochre on a cave wall reminds us of a profound truth. The story of human evolution is not a straight and simple line, but a tree with many fascinating branches, and their legacy is not simply buried in the past. It survives in our DNA, in our social instincts, and in our innate ability to overcome the impossible. The story of prehistory is not the story of them. It is the first and most fundamental chapter in the story of us. And now, I want to turn the floor over to you. After all we've seen, I have a question. What characteristic or skill of our prehistoric ancestors, be it resilience, knowledge of nature, or strong community unity, do you think is most lacking in our modern world? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I read absolutely all of them, and love hearing your different perspectives. It's one of the best parts of doing this work. If you, like me, are passionate about unraveling the great historical mysteries and understanding the roots of our journey, then you're in the right place. Your interaction helps the channel grow immensely. So if this journey through time added value to you, please click the like button so YouTube can share this story with more curious people. And most importantly, if you're not yet a member of our clan, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. That way you won't miss any of our upcoming expeditions into the past. We're already preparing videos about humanity's first cities and the secrets of building the Great Pyramids. You won't want to miss out. Thank you so much for traveling back in time with us today. Remember, the past is much more alive than we imagine. Until next exploration.